Part 2 of Chapter 2. "And what about them?" said Diggory. "A nice mess they'd be in if they couldn't get back." "You will keep on looking at everything from the wrong point of view," said Uncle Andrew with a look of impatience. "Can't you understand that the thing is a great experiment? The whole point of sending anyone into the other place is that I want to find out what it's like." "Well, then why don't you go yourself, then?" Diggory had hardly ever seen anyone look so surprised and offended as his uncle did at this simple question. "Me? Me?" he exclaimed. "The boy must be mad! A man at my time of life and in my state of health to risk the shock and the dangers of being flung suddenly into a different universe? Oh, I never heard anything so preposterous in my life. Do you realize what you are saying? Think what another world means. You might meet anything. "And I suppose you sent Polly into it, then," said Diggory. His cheeks were flaming with anger now. "And all I can say," he added, "even if you are my uncle, is that you've behaved like a coward, sending a girl to a place you're afraid to go to yourself." "Silence, sir," said Uncle Andrew, bringing his hand down on the table. "I will not be talked to like that by a little dirty schoolboy. You don't understand. I am the great scholar, the magician, the adept, the one who is doing the experiments. Of course I need subjects to do it on. Bless my soul, you'll be telling me next that I ought to have asked the guinea pigs' permission before I used them. No great wisdom can be reached without sacrifice. But the idea of my going myself is ridiculous. It's like asking a general to fight as a common soldier. Supposing I got killed, what would become of my life's work?" "Oh, do stop jawing," said Diggory. "Are you going to bring Polly back?" "I was going to tell you, when you so rudely interrupted me," said Uncle Andrew, "that I did at last find out a way of doing the return journey. The green rings draw you back." "But Polly hasn't got a green ring." "No," said Uncle Andrew, with a cruel smile. "Then she can't get back," shouted Diggory, "and it's exactly the same as if you'd murdered her." "Well, she can get back," said Uncle Andrew, "if someone else will go after her, wearing a yellow ring himself and taking 2 green rings, one to bring himself back and one to bring her back." And now, of course, Diggory saw the trap in which he was caught, and he stared at Uncle Andrew, saying nothing, with his mouth wide open. His cheeks had gone very pale. "I hope," said Uncle Andrew presently in a very high and mighty voice, just as if he were a perfect uncle who had given one a handsome tip and some good advice, "I hope, Diggory, you are not given to showing the white feather. I should be very sorry to think that any one of our family had not enough honor and chivalry to go to the aid of a lady in distress." "Oh, shut up," said Diggory. "If you had any honor and all that, you'd be going yourself. But I know you won't. All right, I see I've got to go. But you are a beast. I suppose you planned the whole thing so that she'd go without knowing it, and then I'd have to go after her." "Of course," said Uncle Andrew, with his hateful smile. "Very well, I'll go. But there's one thing I jolly well mean to say first. I didn't believe in magic till today. I see now it's real. Well, if it is, I suppose all the old fairy tales are more or less true, and you're simply a wicked, cruel magician like the ones in the stories. Well, I've never read a story in which people of that sort weren't paid out in the end, and I bet you will be, and serve you right." Of all the things Diggory had said, this was the first that really went home. Uncle Andrew started, and there came over his face a look of such horror that, beast though he was, you could almost feel sorry for him. But a second later he smoothed it all away and said with a rather forced laugh, "Well, I suppose that it is a natural thing for a child to think, brought up among women as you have been. Old wives' tales, eh? I don't think you need to worry about my danger, Diggory. Wouldn't it be better to worry about the danger of your little friend? She's been gone some time. If there are any dangers over there, well, it would be a pity to arrive a moment too late." "A lot you care," said Diggory fiercely. "But I'm sick of this jaw. What have I got to do?" "You really must learn to control that temper of yours, my boy," said Uncle Andrew coolly. "Otherwise you'll grow up to be just like your Aunt Letty. Now, attend to me." He got up, put on a pair of gloves and walked over to the tray that contained the rings. "They only work," he said, "if they're actually touching your skin. Wearing gloves, I can pick them up, like this, and nothing happens. If you carried one in your pocket, nothing would happen. But of course, you'd have to be careful not to put your hand in your pocket and touch it by accident. The moment you touch a yellow ring, you vanish out of this world. When you are in the other place, I expect, of course this hasn't been tested yet, but I expect that the moment you touch a green ring, you vanish out of that world and, I expect, reappear in this. Now, I take these 2 greens and drop them into your right hand pocket. Remember very carefully which pocket the greens are in. G for green and R for right. G-R. You see? Which are the first 2 letters of green. One for you and one for the little girl. And now you pick up a yellow one for yourself. I should put it on your finger if I were you. There'll be less chance of dropping it." Diggory had almost picked up the yellow ring when he suddenly checked himself. "Look here," he said, "what about Mother? Supposing she asks where I am?" "The sooner you go, the sooner you'll be back," said Uncle Andrew cheerfully. "But you don't really know whether I can get back." Uncle Andrew shrugged his shoulders, walked across to the door, unlocked it, threw it open, and said, "Oh, very well then, just as you please. Go down and have your dinner. Leave the little girl to be eaten by wild animals, or drowned, or starved in the other world, or lost there for good, if that's what you prefer. It's all one to me. Perhaps before tea time you'd better drop in on Mrs. Plummer and explain that she'll never see her daughter again, because you were afraid to put on a ring." "By gum," said Diggory, "don't I just wish I was big enough to punch your head." Then he buttoned up his coat, took a deep breath, and picked up the ring. And he thought then, as he always thought afterward too, that he could not decently have done anything else. End of chapter 2.